One of the primary evidences that was used for well over 100 years to promote evolution as a fact, where one animal slowly transformed to another, is the idea of vestigial organs. Now that's kind of a weird word, vestigial. What it means is leftover. One creature slowly transformed into a more advanced creature and changed into a different structure. Well, what about all the parts that it didn't need anymore? What happened to those? Those would be leftover, useless parts. Well, because evolution was taught as a fact for centuries since the time of Darwin, and he used this idea of leftover vestigial parts as one of his primary evidences of proving evolution is true, it became locked into the thinking of medical student after medical student, generation after generation, with absolutely tragic results. See, if you start with the understanding that we exist because God made us, God is a genius beyond magnitude and imagination, then you would be looking for purposes for every part in an animal or parts of our body. But if you believe we're just a bacteria that turned into a fish, that turned into a land animal, that turned into a monkey, that turned into a person, well, gee, there must be some leftover part. At the beginning of the 1900s, there were over 180 parts of the human body that were considered vestigial or useless parts. Now, I'm talking about things like our appendix. For generations, doctors really didn't understand what the purpose was of an appendix was. It would become inflamed or infected, and it would be removed with appendicitis. Often, it would be removed even if it had minor problems. Well, it turns out it was an absolute mistake. Wrong. Turns out the appendix is a storage area for bacteria from the intestine. When we have a massive flu and diarrhea that flushes everything out of our system, the appendix helps to reboot our intestines so it will recover much, much more rapidly. So removing it is actually harmful. When I grew up, tonsils were routinely removed. There were tens, if not hundreds of thousands of children. When they would have cold after cold and sore throat after sore throat, the doctors would just go in and rip out their tonsils. Well, turns out, wrong again. You see, the tonsils are part of the lymphatic system, which help fight bacteria and diseases. And we're far more likely to have more sore throats and more problems when they're removed than when they're left in place. And then there's wisdom teeth. My wisdom teeth were removed. Most of the kids I grew up with, their wisdom teeth were removed. They can become impacted, but it has nothing to do with them being some leftover feature of some ape that had extra teeth that we no longer need. Again, that is wrong. Wrong, 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 over and over again. It just turns out in many countries that have different diets, their mouths grow different. Every part of our body responds to its environment. It's constantly sensing what's going on, growing, adapting. It's programmed to do that, but programming came from God. The wisdom teeth have a purpose depending on culture and where you live and what you eat. The last one is the tailbone. We're often told is a leftover from when we were monkeys and had tails. That, again, is totally wrong, wrong, wrong. It is an absolutely critical part of our body. See, there are both ligaments and muscles attached to that beautifully designed bone at the end of our spine that hold all of the muscles and the internal organs in place. Even going to the bathroom would be very difficult without the muscles attached to the tailbone, which opens and closes what's needed to let waste out of our body. Matter of fact, of that 180 things listed as useless leftover organs, there is not a single item that remains on the list. There should be, if evolution is true. But the fact is it's not. And the more we study creation, we see the fingerprints of God, not the random changes of evolution.